guys, I decided to dress fancy for this review, as you can clearly tell. I'm so fancy. Ladies, just please, calm yourselves. I know I'm handsome. No, it's not true that I'm handsome, but you gotta try. So, I finally decided a day of when I'm going to be doing my videos. Well, days, I should say. For weekends, I will be doing movie reviews and stuff like that. And on Mondays, I will be doing cooking videos. If I have anything to cook on Mondays. Just putting it out there. So, the movie I'm reviewing today for you guys is one of my personal favorites, and hopefully it's the guys who watch this video also, and that is Star Wars Episode 4. Oh. When George Lucas was actually a good director. And good storyteller as well, but this was a great movie. It still is. And it still holds up as one of the cult classics of the 1970s and so on. It's still being shown today for new movies, new TV series, marketing, and other stuff. It is the biggest science fantasy ever conceived. I'm not saying science fiction, because it's basically not. It's science fantasy because it has adventure and it has the Force. When you think science fiction, you're thinking like Star Trek, all the nerdies. No. That's science fiction. Science fantasy is magic and all that sort of stuff, but it takes place in space. But the reason why it's mostly science fantasy is because it has adventure, it has great action, it has great developed characters, and it has the Force, which is basically space magic. And that space magic you can use to lift up crap with your mind. Right. I should use the Force. Whew. Alright. Okay. Okay, seriously, guys. So, let's get on to the review. So, Star Wars Episode 4 starts out with the opening credits as you would see them is you get this big Star Wars logo right in your face, and it just goes off into the distance, and then you get your opening credits, the space scroll that you would normally see in all Star Wars movies. And alright, going on. So, our opening scene, right after the credits, we see the Rebel blockade runner going across the screen, followed by a freaking Star Destroyer. This is a giant ship, which will then be trumped by the later vessel in this movie, which is completely awesome. Except for one fault, which I will explain later in this review. Spoilers! I almost forgot. For those who haven't seen this movie. So, then the Empire grabs the Rebel blockade runner, they attach it to their ship, and they invade the ship. And they start off with their first action sequence, which is laser blast everywhere. So then Darth Vader comes into the ship, and he interrogates the princess, which is played by Carrie Fisher. And the voice of Darth Vader is so awesome. I could not have picked a better actor to do it. For those of you who don't know the voice of Darth Vader, then you probably haven't watched Lion King, because it's the same voice as Mufasa. But yeah. So moving on. Then we get good shots of Tatooine, and we get our first screens of C-3PO and R2-D2, how they're all bickering and stuff like that. So we cut to Tatooine and its scenery. We get the Jawas and all that. We get our look at Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill. Note, Mark Hamill also for 20 years of his career, after Star Wars took off and stuff like that, after he had done the 6th film, during the 1990s, so basically for 20 years until this one video game, he had been doing the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series, Batman Arkham Asylum, and Batman Arkham City. His last performance at that. So we get his all his backstory and stuff like that, how he is on Tatooine, and you get the classic shot of him going out there, he's all pissed and stuff like that, and wanting to go out there and be more than he is on that little Tatooine sand plot. Moving on. So then we get a shot of where it would be the next day, and R2 has gone off somewhere, trying to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, the wise Jedi Master. So he finds Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi just after they were ransacked by a group of Tusken Raiders, or Sand People, which are indigenous natives to the planet of Tatooine who are very aggressive and somehow need to wear masks. They look like some sort of retarded version of Bane if they were ugly. So moving on, we get them at Obi-Wan's house, and we get our first shot of a lightsaber, which is the most powerful weapon in all of science fiction, and it's so cool. Again, I love this movie. So, moving on, and we get our first shot of the Death Star. Moving on. So apparently they're trying to get information out of Princess Leia to show them where the rebel base is, or they'll destroy her home planet of Alderaan. Sure enough, she tells them a fake location, and with them not knowing it was a fake location, they thought it's like, okay, we'll go along with this. Blow up her planet anyway. What? And then yada yada. We go back to Tatooine, and we get probably the most badass character so far yet in the series, which is Han Solo, played by Harrison Ford. Now, this is my own version, and this is my own take on it, but I like old Harrison Ford more than young Harrison Ford. I like Han Solo as a character, I personally do, but I like old Harrison Ford better because he's awesome. He's just awesome. So going on and Han Solo flies the fastest hunk of junk in the entire galaxy, the Millennium Falcon, which is also co-piloted by Chewbacca. I just love doing that. So they fly out there, and just before they do, this one bounty hunter named Greedo, who was a part of Jabba's syndicate at the time, went to try and collect some money that Han Solo owed to Jabba. So he's trying to collect it, and he's like, well, why don't you go ahead and shoot me? Alright. He's like, I'll go to the subtitles say, alright then. So he's about to shoot, and Han shoots first. He wasn't even able to get a shot out. It was pitiful. It's like, okay, damn, we got a badass here. We're dealing with a badass. So he's just walking out. He's just about to walk out. And flips a coin to the bartender and says, "Sorry for the mess." And so he walks out like a badass. So he flies out of the atmosphere of Tatooine, and they're going to warp all the way to Alderaan. It's not warp speed, it's light speed. So they get to Alderaan, and they see that Alderaan is nothing more than smoldering bits of ash, and it has been destroyed by the Empire, which is now the Death Star. The Death Star being this giant orbiting space station, which is basically shaped like an orb with a gigantic frickin' laser that has the power to destroy planets, entire planets. That's awesome, and pretty scary, knowing that in fact we're actually doing that same type of thing now. Like, there's a petition, and it might actually be recognized by the White House, because there's a petition, and you need over 25,000 signatures for it. There's over 400,000 signatures already for the Death Star. That's freaking awesome, but also scary. So moving on, apparently there's plans for this Death Star on this R2 unit, R2-D2. So they go up to the Death Star to save the prince. They save the princess and all that. They get out, or not before Obi-Wan gets killed by Darth Vader. I feel a disturbance in the Force. Well, you don't have to kill me. Okay. Oh, now I'm dead. Yeah. So so Obi-Wan isn't technically dead. He is now one with the Force. Moving on. So they get the plans to the Death Star all the way to Yavin 4, which apparently is where the Rebel base really is. So they put a tracer on the Millennium Falcon without them knowing, and they trace it all the way back to Yavin 4, where the Rebel base is, and hope to destroy what's left of the Rebels. And so they read out the plans of the Death Star, and they find out there's this one little shaft where they have to shoot torpedoes into, and it would blow up the entire space station. Kind of a little design flaw. They probably should have boarded that up with something, say like some steel or something like that. It was kind of a big design flaw, and they had to go along this whole entire trench to get to it. And it's like, couldn't they have just flown over that little shaft and then just shot the torpedoes in that way? Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten this cool action sequence, which was, again, pretty awesome. So they get into the trench, they're being shot all the hell by the Empire, and finally we get our voiceover from old Ben Kenobi. Use the Force, Luke. And so he shoots the torpedoes into the shaft. They fly out of there without Darth Vader spinning out into space in his little TIE fighter. We get Han Solo going, Yahoo! And then, you're clear, kid, now let's get out of here and go home. So they shoot the torpedoes in, Death Star blows up, we live happily ever after. So that's my review of Star Wars A New Hope. I will have Star Wars Episode 5 and Star Wars Episode 6 up for you guys tomorrow. And then next weekend, I shall be doing the god-awful prequel films. I'll see you guys later.